A lot of people started on the floor in the stores and worked their way up. We want to bring bands into us. We want to create something that's great for the employees, something that's cool that the employees will find attractive. Their salary, yes, that's their steady job, but can their workplace do something really cool and really fun for them? That doesn't feel like it's corporate.
We want experiences for our employees that they can never find anywhere. The only experience and the only way they'll ever find that. You've got to come up with things that are completely original. Rewrite what you're doing. And I remember I was like, oh my God.
Treat your employees well. It's not only possible, but essential to make the kind of investment that Carlings was making in their employees, just because they had so much money, they didn't know what to do with it. So
how can we put this money back into our employees, invest in our main asset?
Are you looking for actionable insights from the world's most inspiring individuals? The Built by Love podcast is on a mission to transform your life, your business, and your health. Tune in for impactful conversations with people who do business differently. Avoid burnout, acquire freedom, and live life fully on your own terms. With me, Pete Daly-Dickson, alongside Daniel Bussius.
Danny Young, welcome to the Built by Love podcast.
Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to have you. I want to start with a question that's out of the ordinary. Can you begin with, like, you obviously have a colored history and past for rock and roll to entrepreneur and everything in between. What was the most craziest story that you can start with?
Well, some call it a colored past, or other people might call it a dark past. But no, I was living in LA. I think it was around 2005. And we'd toured with Motorhead before, so I kind of knew Lemmy a little bit. And we were comfortable enough to, after the Rainbow, we went to the Rainbow Bar and Grill to invite him to an after party, which is actually at the Hyatt, the old Hyatt Hotel, which is probably called something else right now. But yeah. Anyways, we're standing there. I remember one of the questions I asked Lemmy if the guitar player had stopped doing speed, and he got really angry with me, like, stop doing speed. Why the hell would I stop doing speed? Like, that's a stupid fucking question. It makes me feel like really stupid for asking that question. Later on, a friend of mine, a girl, I'd hooked them up together, Lemmy and her. And she suddenly was lost. She got really drunk and we couldn't find her anywhere. Her purse was still in the hotel room where her cell phone was. So we couldn't call her, reach her. So Lemmy and I go out into West Hollywood, looking for her in the middle of the night, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, something like that. We walk around, we can't find her. So we come back to the hotel lobby. He walks over to the reception area. He gets a note. It comes over to me with a note. It says, I have to go home and take my diabetes medicine. If you find her, call me. So I have a handwritten note that says, Lemmy, home, Lemmy, cell phone. So he just wanted me, he actually looked after this chick, we were both worried for her because we didn't know where she was. So but just like that little, he didn't have to say that he had to go home and take his diabetes medicine, but apparently he did have to go home and take his diabetes medicine. So he had just mentioned that, and he walked off into the night. And I thought, wow, I'll never forget this night. This is just, yeah. It's probably pretty nearby where he used to live as well. I think he lived in West Hollywood, right by the Rainbow Bar and Grill.
Probably not the best place for him to be living by in regards to, like, the Rainbow. The Rainbow Room is like the most notorious, if not storied, rockers bar and grill in Hollywood.
I think they mostly let him alone. He was just sitting by at the end of the bar with this a game, digital computer game, video game, whatever he was playing. If it was some kind of card game or something like that, he was just sitting there drinking whiskey and Coke and just focused on his game. People mostly used to let him just, sit there on his own. That was his life when he wasn't touring.
Amazing.
Apparently.
Amazing. You've had a crazy journey that we're gonna get to in the podcast. from, obviously professional musician to working at one of the largest fashion houses in Europe, arguably. But your music is your passion. It's at least one of your passions.
Yeah.
How'd you get started with music?
I guess like most kids. I mean, when I was 7, and I'd been a Kiss fan, we moved from I moved from Beverly Hills, California, to this small little tiny place right outside of Oslo, in Norway. I was 7 years old. It was a culture shock, but I had Kiss. I had the band Kiss. And this was the only thing I cared about. I cared about 3 things: cheeseburgers, commercials on TV, and Kiss. The 2 first you wouldn't find anywhere. They didn't have cheeseburger. You couldn't buy a cheeseburger anywhere. They didn't serve them anywhere. Of course, my parents obviously could make them, but you couldn't buy it. I like McDonald's and Fat Burger that they had in California and stuff. And commercials on TV was just out of the question. It was Norway was like Russia, back then. So I had Kiss, and I kind of held on to that for for my dear life. So that was my little cultural, I don't know, not inheritance, but what I brought culturally from California to Norway in 1978, which is many, many years ago now. And then I started playing drums. I just got a snare drum and drumsticks. Nothing really happened to that. Fast forward, I don't know, till I was 12. I got a drum set. And I tried that a little bit. It didn't really bite on. But then me and my friends at school, we wanted to start a band, play together. So playing together with people, that kind of, then I can play the drums because I actually have a drum set that I haven't touched for 3 years. So yeah, so it was like doing that at at the level of when you're 14 or whatever age. I think 14, 15. You're not great, but you have a passion for it. It's okay. It's fun, something to do in your spare time when you're not in school. But then I discovered Led Zeppelin, and that changed everything. Which is like Led Zeppelin for drummers today, I guess, is like what Beatles was for the generation, before. It's not that many years between when Beatles launched and Led Zeppelin launched, but still, Led Zeppelin had a huge impact for a lot of rockers, but especially for drummers. So I guess that was what really, when I started taking it seriously. And I would just I heard the drummer from Led Zeppelin, and I thought, holy shit, this just takes everything to a whole different level.
Wow.
But I'm going to fucking try it. I'm going to go down and see what I can do with that. So, and that was like the bug that, I was hooked by them. So started with Kiss, didn't really get there that much, but when Led Zeppelin came into my life, that's when it kind of made sense to me.
And why Norway? What took your parents to Norway?
Well, my father was American. He moved to Norway, or he went to Norway in 1962. He was a photographer. He had 2 cents in his pocket, but he had some film rolls they could put into his camera. So he went there to take pictures because he went to photography classes in Los Angeles, where he met a guy who said, you have to go to Norway. Norway is like untouched in the photography world. You have to go there and take pictures. Trust me, just do it. So he did. And his first 3 girlfriends were models because coming to Norway, it was easy to become like a fashion photographer, which is not his passion at all. But I guess, that's where you could start, and you can make some money there. Mm. But so that's where he went. Then he met his 3 girlfriends that I know of have been like, women, my half-brother's mother, my mother, and then my stepmother. So he stayed in Norway pretty much, I mean, with an exception of 1972 to 1978, where we lived in Arizona and California. But we moved back because my parents we tried living in Los Angeles, and they wanted to do like independent film. I was like, you're not making money off of that, obviously. Not today, not back then. So there was a safer, economically, it made more sense to move back to Norway and try to start something there. And it it went better, I guess. Easier to make money, apparently.
That had to be a massive culture shock. I mean, 7 years old, you're still young, but I mean, you're already kind of entrenched in a multitude of things. One is the weather, the climate in
Yeah.
Southern California versus Norway is wildly different.
Yes.
The I've been fortunate enough to go to Norway, which we can briefly talk about later, but people are so friendly, so kind. Like, it's just such a genuine culture of people, and arguably I'd say Los Angeles is not. So
Well, I well, I guess you find all kinds.
yeah, yes. I mean, like, look, there's always some, good people in the bunch, but for the most part, it's a wild culture shock is what
Yeah,
I'm saying. So I mean, how
it
was
was.
that for you? Like, that had to be, especially
Uh,
weather-wise as a kid, right? Like, you're not necessarily riding your bike in the winter. Maybe you are with the snow. I mean,
well, the snow was that was then, to begin with, it's exotic because I haven't seen it before, but I've heard a lot about it because my mom was Norwegian, so she would always tell me about this, and I, show pictures and talk about, the skiing. So I went skiing and kind of thought that was kind of cool. And in the wintertime, there's snow. In the summertime, it was nice. It's never going to be like California, but it can get warm here and then nice. And I guess kids are pretty good at adapting, anyhow, and as long as I'm really glad that I had Kiss and kind of took that with me there, because I everything else was like, it's well, I'd learn the language, and then you learn the language and you try to get to know, get some friends and stuff. But not too long after we moved there, my parents separated. So I moved out of this little village outside of Oslo, and then suddenly into the center of Oslo with my dad's new girlfriend. And then we moved out into this nice house on the other side of opposite side of Oslo. And I just kids adapt. It's like I spent like in 1 month I spoke Norwegian
wow,
pretty
it's incredible.
fluently, because, well, you go to school and you get extra, because I couldn't speak Norwegian when I came here at all, but they took good care of me, and I learned the language, and then you get the social. You read after a while, after failing a couple of times, you understand like what are like the social rules here, and how to get along, and then I don't know. I think is also, especially since my parents did separate, and my mom didn't go that well with my mom, so she would kind of move constantly all around the Oslo area. Well, my dad stayed in one place, so I learned how to, with public transportation from fairly young age, how to get to wherever my mom had moved to the new place, which made me pretty independent. So, and I didn't think of it. It was just how life. It's just how life is. You don't really think that this really sucks. I shouldn't be treated this way. It's like, no, it's what it is, and afterwards I've seen like, well, that made me, I guess, more independent. Just like, okay, I have to go and figure out where to go. Nobody's going to help me with this. I have to figure it out myself.
And I'm just curious, do you consider yourself American or Norwegian?
Good question.
I tell you,
Depends on.
I was going to say, one of the reasons I ask is that my older brother, married
Yeah.
a Swedish girl, and they've lived in Sweden now for maybe 25, 30 years. And he has a Swedish passport over a British passport. He is like, he dreams in
Full-on
Swedish, speaks.
Swede.
Yeah. He's a Swede, I would say, more before he's English. So what about you?
Well, I have two passports. I'm lucky that way.
Yeah.
It's like when I'm over there, I feel at home. Especially, I really love Arizona, and it's one of the places I really, really miss. I miss the desert there, so I feel very like close to that. But then again, I don't know. When you maybe know this, Peter, for seeing how the U.S. is portrayed in the media often. In European countries, and probably in England as well. And I don't know how rough the BBC can be with America as a culture, but sometimes you see they choose to take out the shitty stuff, the crazy people, and there's no lack of crazy people over there or over here, but that's how they want to portray it. And after, if you've lived over there, visited there, most people know that that's not the entire truth, but that's how they want to portray it. In that case, when they're portrayed in that way, yeah, I don't really want to. I don't feel very American.
Are you ready to take your business to the next level, but continue to be held back by marketing that fails to bring in new customers? It's time to stop settling for lackluster results, wasting your time and money, and focus on a proven formula for business growth. At Built by Love, we're more than a marketing agency. We're your growth partner. As a multiple-time award-winning agency, we specialize in creating marketing strategies that aren't just effective, they're transformative. Here's what we do. 1. Grow your revenue. Our proven systems drive meaningful, measurable results. 2. Elevate your brand. Our strategies will help you stand out and connect with your audience on a deeper level. 3. We save you time and money. Our award-winning team will handle your advertising and marketing with precision and expertise so you can focus on what you do best. Don't just take our word for it. Experience the difference for yourself. Book your free consultation today at builtbylove.com.
And when I see how the media is portraying, well, let's take the idiots and show them like this is the circus, and here are the really shitty clowns in the circus, right? Yeah, that's a yay big part of it. It's there, but it's so much more. Yeah. So I feel like socially and the way that, I mean, I can say this as a white man. I'm allowed to say that I'm a white man, I guess. I could say that being even if they portray me as a Norwegian when I'm visiting the U.S., I always meet friendliness. Especially maybe not everywhere in Los Angeles, but especially like Arizona. People are and generally they're interested, they're friendly, they're polite, they want to talk with you, they're social, and I find that much more there than over here. Much more in the States than I do in Norway. You had a different experience, Daniel, but maybe if LA is your only, your main base, like, or New York, which is famously, but also in a very cool way, unfriendly or rude, which I love the New York attitude. I mean, I have stories about that too. But in general, people are pretty friendly. They're pretty okay. They're pretty approachable. There's assholes everywhere. There's nice people everywhere.
It's interesting. Nashville is like one of the friendliest cities, in my opinion, you can visit. Chicago is very friendly. Obviously, a lot of times for business, I've been and have been in New York City. And I'll never forget, I was there like the week after 9/11, and all over the subways, like in the tunnel as you're walking like to the turnstiles and things, where there's these very heartbreaking things of all of the missing and all these people's photos. And I remember I was awestruck and just so sad as you're walking by and you're seeing all of these, brothers and sisters and husbands and wives and sisters and all that stuff. And I was walking to the turnstile and I was engrossed looking, but I kept walking forward. And I sensed something and I turned around last minute and there was a New Yorker walking forward and he wasn't moving and he had a potted plant. I kid you not. And he just put it up like right at my face. So as I was trying to slow down and he kept going and my face smacked right into the potted plant and he just kept going. And I remember I was like, that's New York for you, right? There this like moving to the side, this guy's engrossed in something like, nope, you're in my way. Boom.
So. Well, I have a beautiful New York story as well. I'd been to California and Arizona on the visit, and I was going to New York to stay there for 1 or 2 nights before going back home to Norway. And of course, we were a rock band that was sponsored by Carlings, where I used to work.
Yeah.
So I was on full denim gear, and I had my big white cowboy hat and my snakeskin cowboy boots, as that was my look at that time. This was before 9/11, so it was probably like 99, maybe 2000. And I took probably like a public transportation into town. I was standing right by Madison Square Garden waiting for a taxi, and I hear this yelling behind me, and this little girl, she said, hey, you with the big white hat. I turn around, it's an African-American girl, she's 9 years old or something, and she looks at me with hatred in her eyes and says, where's your horse? So I was basically just like, they told to get the fuck out of my town, you stupid hick, we don't want you here. And that was a beautiful feeling, man.
Ah.
That I recommend that to everybody. Me with my big old stupid cowboy hat, you know. Oh man, I'll never
You got to
forget
send
that.
us a photo of your outfit. Maybe we can slide it into this
I'll see if I
podcast.
have. I don't know if I have myself with that. But that, yeah, but that was like New York. Even the kids are rude to you, and even the kids make you feel like shit. And I don't know.
There's
There's something beautiful about that, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just the grind because LA has that a little bit too. Not like the energy, the rawness of New York, but I think it's just the grind of just the city and the people.
Yeah,
Every city has its own energy and vibe, and definitely
yeah,
New York has that rawness.
yeah.
Um, I want to get back to when you were a drummer, you were inspired by Led Zeppelin. It changed your trajectory for going from just a hobby to you really wanted to excel at it. You're 14 years old. At what point in time do you turn into a professional musician? Did you first get into like a working world, or like how did that unfold?
Yeah, oh, everything music was kind of hobby based. I did want to live off of it, but it was definitely just like something I had to do on the side. But we were play with a bunch of people, and we were serious, and I was serious. I wanted to do this, but hadn't really figured out how. I mean, how to get equipment, how to get a rehearsal space and meet with the guys, and we would practice like sometimes we practice 5, 6, 7 nights a week, and working daytime. Of course, when you're younger, that's not really a problem. You have all the energy in the world, right? But it was mostly I just had to like focus on having a steady job, getting a steady income. And then I heard from a friend of mine that Glucifer the drummer was quitting. So they didn't know if they want to have addition, but they just wanted to ask me see if we could make that work. And that was, this was, I guess, back in 96, I think. I turned 25 that year. So that's when I was 25. So until then, it was just like I worked in a music store selling drums, of course. Yeah, a bunch of odd jobs, just
And
whatever.
for the listener, Glucifer, right? For
Yeah.
someone's like, okay, well, I have heard of it or I haven't heard of it. Can you tell us what kind of music that is, and where was that band in regards to the status of like echelons of bands back in '96?
So back in 96, and like from the early to mid 90s and until I guess still today, there was this movement. It was a kind of anti-shoegazer movement, like all the Britpop and all the very serious bands gazing at their shoes. There came a movement in Scandinavia with a Swedish band like the Helicopters. You had the other Oslo band called Turbo Negro, that's their name. Which, they were also rising, and it was kind of like, we'll make a show, we'll make a spectacle out of this. We're tired of the shoegazing. We want to go out there and make people have a good time, have fun, smile, laugh, dance, get drunk, get laid, whatever. Just have a great time. You're young, use your energy now. Let's do this together, kind of thing. But the music was it's kind of like they call it Scandi rock, because there was a lot of Scandinavian bands that went out there touring. Helicopters, Backyard Babies, Glucifer, Turbo Negro. Yeah, those are like the main four ones. There were some from Helsinki also. um, but the music is something between, like, I don't know, very inspired by you know both British and American punk, like the Stooges, maybe some Sex Pistols there, but then also AC/DC, Motorhead, and
Wow.
all that fun, good hard rock from like the mid 70s till mid 80s or whatever. A lot of music from that time that was inspiration for this. Turbo Negro, if for those who know or don't know, they took a lot of just a visual inspiration from Alice Cooper, because the singer would have like painted around his eyes, but then they also steal like riffs and steal hooks, and but make it kind of their own still. You could hear, oh, they stole that from that, but that's actually really cool. It's very catchy, and it's so it had a lot of punk elements, which was also the reason why almost considered not joining because I was never really a big punk. I loved the Ramones, Stranglers, but people and the Police, but for some reason, or I know why, but people don't not the diehard punk fans would not really refer to that as punk rock necessarily. Elements
Yeah.
of it, yes, but they're not credible as like real punk rock. That was the closest I would get. For me, was Van Halen and Aerosmith, a lot of the American bands, but also Stones and the Who and all that stuff. That was where I came from. Of course, Led Zeppelin, as I mentioned, and Kiss. But when I kind of figured out, like, yeah, there's punk elements here, but there's also cool hard rock stuff that I really, really love. I'm gonna work to see if I can get into this band. Technically, I was maybe more advanced than some of the guys in the band, but I was also a really hard hitter. So trying to play like fast music and play really hard, that is challenging. That's going to kind of drain you, and I still notice that it does today. After past 50, I notice like I can, hitting that hard and that playing that fast is, yeah, it's something else. But I decided that they're not going to tell me that I'm not going to get the job. If it's going to be anyway that I'm not joining, it's going to be me telling them that I don't want to join. I'm going to be able to do this. So I had to kind of work at it. But, I was fairly young and inspired and thought like, fuck yeah, I'm going to go for this. So that's how I ended up there. I came kind of like, I came from the same area as the guys in the band, but we never really knew each other. But musically, we kind of come from different aspects, different parts of the rock. Rainbow rock rock map, what have you.
So you joined the band. They obviously they select you. That's 1996.
Yeah.
And then I just caught you.
Sorry,
mentioned
1997. Just to
okay, 97.
Yeah, it was 97. I'm mixing up my years.
Yeah. So you joined the band in 97.
Yeah.
You're touring, and then I caught what you had said earlier is that your band was sponsored by Carlings. In 90, you were in New York because of a Carlings tour in 99.
No, it wasn't a Carlings tour, but the band, for like the first album that I was in and the first videos we did, we got a sponsor deal with Carlings. You remember Knut Vidar?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was the guy. He sponsored Turbo Negro. He did all like the big rock events. So when I joined Carlings many years later, I kind of took over the job that he had once.
Cool. Very cool.
Like a sponsor kind of.
Yeah.
Character
And just
figure.
for our listener, because we're mentioning Carlings and they're like, if they're listening in the United States, they might be like, is that the beer? Is that beer?
The British beer. Yeah. Is it a good beer, Peter?
Yeah.
It's kind of middle.
Not your favorite.
No, it's middle of the road, really.
Okay.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's not a Bud Light level.
No.
It's above that, but it's definitely not like a micro brew or something. So
Carlings is then a chain of jeans stores, mainly in Scandinavia and Northern Europe. At the time I was working there, I guess we had something over 200 stores around about in 4 countries: Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland. What the numbers are now, I don't know. It's almost 10 years since I quit there, but yeah, it's one of the big jeans chain stores in Northern Europe.
So I'm gonna
predominantly it's kind of like the old school limited corporation of the United States, where they had multiple brands. They were a powerhouse, and every major mall and every major market, they were going to be completely saturated there, and they were hot, right? Like this was back in the day for limited corporation, but the Varner Group or Varner Gruppen is the umbrella company that owns these same thing for Scandinavia and Europe. And Carlings is one of the flagship brands, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask the question, Danny, on behalf of our listener. Like, what the fuck's a hard rock drummer doing working for a fashion brand? How did that come about?
It came about because I joined Glucifer in '97, and we called it quits in 2005. I went then in 2005 to California.
Was that
and went to
mutual? Was that what?
Yeah, we kind of ended the whole thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't my choice. I would have said if I get...
You're an entrepreneur and you're busy, but we know that every business owner needs a podcast without the hassle of learning about production. Well, we figured it out for you. Activate Your Podcast is a service that offers everything you need to make a podcast that creates meaningful relationships with your clients at scale. The experts at AYP will work directly with you to produce 5-pillar episodes from a 2-hour conversation that captures the trust and love you are bringing to your ideal client. And the assets are all yours to create your own amazing marketing campaign. For the benefits of a podcast without the hard work, head to activateyourpodcast.com and let's create something great together. Now, back to the episode.
To decide I want to keep on going because I think we have more things going on here. But 2 of the guys, the singer and the 1 guitar player, they call it quits, and then it was over. So that's how it is. So I lived in California, and then I came home, and I got into radio. So I was doing radio, 2 different channels I worked for. And during one of the channels I was working for, because I had my own show, it was called Dr. Gong's Saloon in Norwegian. And I called our friend Knut Vidar, who was like the sponsor guy for Carlings in this, because I wanted if they want to sponsor us with some T-shirts for my radio show. And he said, well, sure, we can talk about that, but I want to talk to you about something else, because he remembered me. We go kind of way back because when I was playing in Glucifer. So I think we have. I think you're the perfect candidate for a job opening that we have in Carlings. And I was like, sometimes probably it's my drummer mind, like a little bit slow to kind of figure out that this is a good thing for me. So I was like, I don't know. I got my radio show. It was, but he was like, yeah, you could have a radio show here. You could probably do almost whatever you want to do in this company, because they have a lot of money and they are not spending that money on external marketing. They're actually spending that money to take care of their own employees. Mm-hmm. So instead of saying that, yeah, we sponsor this festival, or we sponsor this radio, they say, well, we just want to bring our employees to this. We want to bring bands into us. We want to create a cool something that's great for the employees.
Wow.
So it took a while for me to kind of figure out that I am not going to be in radio, but I can maybe do radio, but I can do a lot of other things, and it's going to be a much cooler job. So I applied and I got the job. So that was.
And what was that? What were you brought in to do?
It's sort of like a rock alibi, like a rock image, but they wanted kind of like what I was saying, like, we want to do cool things for employees. So it's like, what do you think we could do in the rock image, something that's cool for that the employees will find attractive, and their salary, yes, that's their steady job, but can their workplace do something really cool and really fun for them that doesn't feel like it's corporate, or how the corporate world can think, oh, we're going to do this amazing party, and like the employees are like, yeah, this party sucks because this is not our vibe at all. We wanted to create that vibe from within. The employees working in the stores, get them, what did they want to do? Well, they were into rock at the time. So, okay, well, let's call Queens of the Stone Age and have them come to our store and dress them up in full gear. It's going to cost us very little, but they're going to love us as a brand. Our employees are going to be starstruck from having these cool guys visiting their store. And since we did that, they invited us all backstage to their show afterwards, and we had a great big party with them. It's kind of like that mentality, having a store radio.
Yeah.
We sponsored a tour bus in Norway, with the bands touring in Norway. Wherever that bus was, there's a huge Carlings logo on it. That is also something that, our employees feel like, wow, that's really cool. This cool band is in town, and my company is helped them get here. So that's kind of that mentality, I guess.
That is so cool to hear. And now I understand why Daniel wanted you on the show so much, because
I still don't understand.
Apart from the fact that you're a cool motherfucker, it's like,
can I call you when I'm sad and lonely? Which will be in 5 minutes, Peter.
Because you hear so much about culture, and it's really important to have this culture. And like for some businesses, it's just like pizza and beer once a month kind of thing. You try to treat your employees well. So it's just really great for our listener to hear firsthand that it's not only possible, but would you say essential to make the kind of investment that Carlings was making in their employees? What's your view on that? Or was that just because they had so much money they didn't know what to do with it? So what the fuck? Just
Believe me, they're not like any big major company. They don't like spending money either.
Right.
But spending it right, and instead of like billboarding the hell out of something or spending on TV commercials or all that stuff, it's like how can we kind of put this money back into our employees, invest in our main asset? Of course, yes, the jeans, the clothing, and everything is a very important asset, because without them you wouldn't have a store. But you have to have somebody to sell this stuff. And the way they would also hire people was they would hire like real character. I mean, this is, remember back in like, I don't know, 2006 or 7, maybe if somebody had like full tattooed, maybe back then it was harder to get a job, because people would be like, well, that person looks like a scary person, and it will scare people away from our stores. Carlings really didn't care about that. So that's a cool person. That's a person that shows that they're culturally involved in something.
Yeah.
And it was a more character driven than it was, well, I was the best salesperson in my company because I had the best numbers. Yeah, that would be a good thing, but we want a character. We want somebody with a cool attitude, somebody unique, somebody who make you feel like, wow, I met this really cool person in this store today.
Yeah.
So
fully human. Someone who embraced all of their own humanity, rather than trying just to fit into some kind of corporate crap.
Exactly.
I remember when the former director of marketing had reached out to my agency in Los Angeles, right? And I own multiple companies, and one of them is an experiential event and marketing agency called In the Mix Promotions. And he says, hey, we're this European company and we're looking to do this thing. And I was like, is this a scam? Like, are you also like a prince and you have money to give me? That's, whatever. And so it was kind of interesting. And then finally I was like, this is legit. And so long story short, our agency bidded, we won it. And then we got to meet, Danny and the rest of like really the leadership team. Right. And the thing that stood out is like in most large corporations, you have the CEO and you have the finance and you got the director of marketing. And then there's Danny. And I was like, I remember talking to him and I was like, so hold on a minute. What do you do? And he's like, yeah, just kind of like lifestyle events, like, find cool opportunities. And I remember thinking, I was like, if I ever had a corporate job, like, this is what I want. Like, this is like, I've never heard of this in my entire life. And you're like, yeah, we run this radio show. It's live. We produce it right from the headquarters and it goes to all the stores. And like, I might be at a music event and I really like the band and I invite them to come play. And like, I was like, wow, like you have a blank check, so to speak, of whatever creative outlet. And then it's instantly getting infused into the corporate culture and all of these cool things that you all did. And I was blown away. And then furthermore, speaking to obviously one of the catalysts that Danny, you got to produce and was like your creative genius was the hardcore loyalty and true love that these store managers and staff had. Like you could tell it transcended from a job to this is who I am. It's a lifestyle, which I've never in all of and my agencies worked with all the Fortune 500 brands. Well, most of them, right? Like all the big brands, the Microsofts of the world, the Sonys, like all the way through. And never, still to this day, never have I seen a company that's been able to cross over that barrier of like, you could have something that's cool. You make something cool. Oh, your iPhone arguably is cool. It's not who you are. It's not your lifestyle. It's not something like that you live and breathe after work and it defines who you are. And very much so that, at least to my knowledge of when working with Carlings, that was their life. Like that was their identity.
And a lot of people that I worked with that were high up in the company, they had literally like no like formal education for their jobs. They had started on the floor in the stores and worked their way up. So they really knew the culture really, really well, and they had to learn the business part of it as growing through it. So, it could be very risky, for sure. But I mean, it's you're staying really true to the culture of and the heartbeat of the whole company, which I thought was pretty fascinating. And I don't think you find that many companies with such a high profit doing so well, where people actually, most of the people just started working in the store and then worked their way up to the top like that with like formal education.
That's absolutely fascinating, Danny, to hear that. And it kind of seems to speak to the truth that culture isn't an option. It's what's there at the beginning of a business when it's in your bedroom or your kitchen or whatever.
Yeah.
And what happens, I think, and it's one of the part of the conversation that Daniel and I had at the beginning, before we actually started this podcast, is like, what does happen to companies when they get to a certain size where they lose that and they
lose their soul.
They lose their soul, and the love goes out of it. But it seems to me that Carlings has somehow managed to retain this love thing.
Yeah.
I think it's despite being so big and so profitable.
Yeah, I think it's gone through some changes since I was there as well, and they kind of changed their image, and they they went out searching. I mean, obviously, when things are going well, of course, that's also very easy to just keep it as it is. I think what maybe happened to Carlings after a little while, that they weren't really paying attention to the whole digital world. And they saw other companies kind of passing them. How things are now, I don't really stay up to date with their business, but I know that the Varner Group have, I think they're just called Varner. They want to just be called Varner, but you and I still refer to them as the Varner Group, Daniel. But they, I think they had to close down a lot of stores.
Oh wow!
And focus, because they weren't really. I mean, until the day I left, which was back in 2018. I don't think they even had a web shop.
I remember that. It was all in store. And then our agency, after like the last big event we did in New York City with them, there were a couple things we helped them and assisted with that were like just digital things. But I remember they were really getting into like building out all that presence. And I think the internet's kind of really disrupted a lot of things. And obviously I think I'd argue we're living through one of the largest transformations in human civilization, which is a blessing and a curse because it's going to really disrupt our lives. But on the flip side, in history, like long gone, when we're like dead and buried, people are going to look back at this time and it's going to be like the invention of the printing press, right? Like, wow, what a complete transformation. What an exciting time to live through that. And most retail, excuse me, is experiencing the same thing. At least I can speak for the United States, is more and more people are saying, well, if I can just order it online and it's going to show up to my door, then I'll just do that rather than go into a store. So it's an interesting landscape how things are starting to play out.
Certainly.
Did Carlings have any other kind of not that your job was weird, but the job that you were recruited for is you don't often see it come up on job portals and stuff. Did Carlings have any other kind of strange jobs, kind of just
well what we had was in the marketing team it was you remember Daniel Ingelina?
Yeah.
When I started, she was the Minister of Internal Affairs, and I was the Minister of External Affairs.
Okay. So
that were the titles. Of course, when I was applying for a mortgage, I was like, "What's your job title?" It's like, and then it's like, okay, it's a fun title, but are they really taking me seriously? It's like, come on. But so I guess like a marketing coordinator or whatever I don't know, whatever title they would call it. But that was her title, and her title was kind of like, but that was kind of like the in-store happenings, the in-store decorations, events, and all that stuff. She was doing that, working a lot internally towards the employees, and then I was like, working with festivals and radio and music bands, and that whole shtick.
Cool.
Events like with Daniel and in the mix.
Hey there, entrepreneurs and business owners. Are you feeling stuck with marketing strategies that just aren't delivering? Struggling to attract the right customers or boost your sales? Imagine turning those challenges into triumphs with a proven roadmap tailored just for you. Introducing Marketing Built by Love, the game-changing book by award-winning expert Daniel Bussius. Marketing Built by Love is designed to tackle your biggest business pains head-on, whether you're battling low visibility, weak customer loyalty, or stagnant growth. This book provides actionable solutions that drive real results. Here's how it can transform your business. Boost your revenue. Implement strategies that convert leads into loyal customers. Strengthen customer relationships. Create meaningful connections that keep your clients coming back. Streamline your marketing efforts. Save time and money with effective, easy-to-follow systems. Don't let marketing woes hold you back any longer. Take control and watch your business thrive. Grab your copy of Marketing Built by Love today in stores at Barnes & Noble, or order online at Amazon or wherever you buy quality books. Transform your marketing. Solve your business problems. Achieve the success you deserve with Marketing Built by Love. Available now.
Gang.
It's funny. It was myself and one of my staff members. We flew to Oslo for a week to meet with them, to go over all like the creative and all that stuff. And I remember we came with our slide decks and all that kind of stuff. And we're like flipping through and we're like, well, here's this option and this option. And I remember, they were very everyone's so kind. They really took care of us. And then I think it was a Wednesday night. And they're like, look, we have nothing planned for you in the evening. There's no dinner or anything. You're just going to go out with Danny and have dinner and enjoy the evening. Because every night there was something that had been planned for us. And so we're like, yeah, sure. And I remember we were still as an agency learning the culture. And I remember Danny really one of the things, Danny, that was profound, that really sunk in that night, besides some other things that we'll get to is you were like, let me explain this to you. Cause as an agency, we're kind of staying within the guardrails of okay, well, we're going to present this option and it's cool and it's cutting edge, but it's still safe. And Danny really laid it out to us at dinner. He's like, we want experiences for our employees that they can never find anywhere. They can't go on a tour. They can't pay to do it. They can't see it unless they're here. That's the only experience and the only way they'll ever find that. So these safe options of this or that you're presenting to us, they can literally go to that city or that town and they can do it on themselves. It's not unique enough. You've got to come up with things that are completely original.
Wow.
So rewrite what you're doing. And I remember I was like, oh my God. And we delivered on that. Hopefully you can be the judge of that.
Oh yeah.
But
so give me an example.
I remember I was like,
give me and the listener an example then, Daniel. What did you come up? Or Danny, what do you remember?
Well, I remember one thing that was really cool, and I think you guys took us to Alcatraz, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you did. It was you, because we were. I think we traveled to San Francisco with you, and then back from San Francisco with another company. If I remember
when
correctly.
You guys were still making decisions on who to hire.
Exactly. Exactly. So we were in Alcatraz, and for me personally, the Escape from Alcatraz, and Clint Eastwood, the movie, I saw that like 100 times when I was a kid. I loved that movie,
Me too.
and I'd never been to Alcatraz. But Daniel and the guys, they got us to. If you're coming with a big event company and you're saying we have a big corporation, they have a lot of money, they're going to treat you differently, right? They're not going to give you the typical tourist or the typical round. They took us up into the second floor,
which is off limits to the public.
Off limits to the public, and it's the hospital. It's like where the doctors, and there. I think what they said, if I remember correctly, there was they called it like the chamber or something, but it was literally where they would just hose them down with freezing water and kind of treat them nasty when I don't think there was a great HR department there for the prisoners, you know. But we were up there, and it was so creepy up there. I swear, I still get goosebumps, just like, because you could sense it. You walk
Feel
in
the
this
energy.
area.
Wow.
It was like, geez, there's been, and there was this one cell, and one of the most crazy guys, he was locked in there, his solitary cell. He was just in there, and I still have a picture of this, because our mutual friend Knut Vidar, which I've been referring to earlier, he was then working as a head of marketing for one of the big Varna Group companies called Dressman, which is like just clothes for guys, and suits, but also kind of casual wear, but nice wear. And they were doing a merchandise campaign with the Rolling Stones. So they were going to sell a lot of Rolling Stones merchandise, specially printed for that campaign. And he was dealing directly with, actually, a lot of it was directly with Mick Jagger. So Knut Vidar went into one of those solitary cells on the second floor where there had lived some maniac person. He picks up his phone and he calls that, and has a phone meeting with Mick Jagger. And I think, how many fucking people on this planet can say that? I have picture proof of it. How many people can say that?
Can I guess? One, maybe?
Probably one. So,
I remember Danny and them. You go ahead. Yeah.
No, yeah. So that's one of the like interesting. We never ended up going to Alcatraz, but we had that as an option to have a huge party at this old prison out on that island outside of San Francisco, which is that's pretty unique.
Yeah, close the island down.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's an island, so you have to take a boat. So we were gonna, obviously charter a boat. Music and everything on the boat. We shut down the whole island and throw a private party in the jail.
Yeah.
And I remember they were saying, they're like, can we really do this? And I was like, yes, you guys wanted crazy shit.
Yeah.
And we're going to bring you the most wild shit that like the public's not going to be able to experience. Yeah. Do you remember the basement of the Alcatraz? They're like, do you guys want to go in the basement? We're like, well, what's down there? And they're like, well, before Alcatraz was Alcatraz, it was an old fort, and they had a prison down there. And obviously Alcatraz over the years just built up. And then when Alcatraz got full, if you were really, really, really bad, they put you in the basement. Ooh. You remember that? And it was like, you could see like it was back from the Civil War. Yeah. And they were like, crazy. I was like, is it haunted down there? And the guy's like, oh yeah. You do not want to be down here at night.
Yeah, right.
And he would say like the prisoners would scream at night because it's haunted, like haunted. So
fucking
yeah. So I remember, so Danny's like, oh, do you guys want to have a couple beers? And we're my staff member and I are like, Tyler, we're like, yeah, I mean, we're at dinner, we'll have a couple beers, and then like one beer leads to another beer that leads to another beer, and all of a sudden like we're feeling pretty good. And then he's like, well, now that dinner's done, we have to have this special Norwegian after dinner drink. And we're like, oh, okay, what's that? And you really sold us on it, Danny. I remember sitting across the table from you, and you're like, well, it's got all these different herbs, and it's really good. It helps settle your stomach, and it's just very comforting. And sometimes even if you're sick, you'll just take a little sip of it. We're like, oh, this doesn't sound bad. This sounds very innocent, like just a nice little after dinner liqueur. And the thing's called aquavit, right? Yeah. And so he asked the lady, he's like, oh, let's get around to aquavit. And I look at Tyler, and he's like, yeah, it's just a little, you're thinking just a little thing. And I don't know how much alcohol's in that, but all I remember is the next thing. Tyler and I are at some bar till like 3:00 in the morning. We missed like the first 2 hours of meetings the next day. There's voicemails at the hotel like, are you guys okay? And we had to walk into this massive corporation at like 10:00 in the morning. And they're all looking at us, and they're like, what did you do last night? And all we could say is, we went to dinner with Danny. And they're like, say no more. Say no more. Yeah. They're like, where did he take you? And we're like, I don't know, but there was aquavit. Oh, he brought out the aquavit. We're like, oh man, he is notorious for this. So.
Yeah, that was good
so
times.
It sounds like it was just right. They talk about Jim Collins talks about business being a bus, and you make sure you have the right people on the right seat of the bus. And it sounds to me like your role in Carlings, you were the right person on the right seat of the bus, and the right bus going in the right direction. So why did you leave? I mean, it just sounds like a job made in. I mean, you couldn't have made it up, really.
Well. I want to take what you said, and I want to add some David Lee Roth to it, because it's not called a bus; it's a tour bus. And David Lee Roth wrote, it's called a disco submarine.
Okay.
And we shall never forget that.
Okay.
No, you know what? I'd been there for 8 years, and I could sense that there was a whole shift of the culture. They were trying hard to get away from the rock image and everything, and they were doing other like my job became like, instead of like what was kind of true and real to me, it became something that was just more like a job. It was like, okay, we're going to work with this DJ festival with all this and the whole clientele and the whole image of it was, for me, like I have to kind of believe in things. And I had the last part of my job in Carlings, which was very, very, it was incredible, and I learned so much from it, and I was so happy for doing that, was that we started working with the Norwegian Red Cross in a project I had for young people in Colombia. And this was when Cali was like I think maybe the 5th or the 10th most violent place on earth, Cali, Colombia. And we flew in there, and with the camera team, and to like, see what's kind of going on, or how are the youth coping with this? What do they do on their spare time? How do they hold together? And what can we do to help with that? Because that's going to be something that's going to identify, or that our employees are going to identify with. It's young people, their age, and it's something that they're in the middle of a very, very bad area, but they're coping somehow.
Yeah.
But they need help, and the Red Cross is there to help them, all peacefully, of course. So we flew into Colombia, and my job was then to take charge of like, okay, well, we're documenting this. And I hired a local camera guy, and I grew up on film sets. My dad was a photographer, and I've kind of seen all the elements of this, and been waiting there forever, and at the film sets, hurry up and wait, kind of all that. And but being like in charge of like, okay, we're going to make this film now. The photographer is there, and he's like, so what do I do? And like, oh yeah. I should have thought of that, because I have to tell you what you're going to do, obviously. So it's like I kind of jumped into something that probably didn't really understand what I was doing when I came into it, because I hadn't really done things like that before. So learning by doing, and then coming home for that, and kind of burning for this project, because this actually means a lot more. The bottom line is, for a company like Carlings, is to sell jeans. Me personally, I don't care how many jeans they sell and to who they sell it and what the real image is. This, on the other hand, is something that is a lot more meaningful to me. So now I have a project that I can actually, I'm burning for this. This is something that's that you can have a lot of passion into, put a lot of passion into. So coming from that, I just like, okay, well, am I going to sit with an editor and I have to feed him all this raw material, and we have to together find out how to do this? It's going to take forever, but I have to, so I thought, well, fuck it, I'm going to learn this. I'm going to learn this editing program myself. And I did. And so, and then I get like learning by doing. So then I was kind of bitten by the bug of like, okay, well, this is video production and storytelling. And this is actually kind of fun. I could do more of this, but Carlings is not going to do more of this. And they're changing their whole direction. Maybe I should go do something else. So that was kind of like my narrative back then. I was like, well, I'm, let's try something.
What's the worst?
Try something new. So it's kind of gutsy, and it takes a while before you get the wheels rolling, and a while to understand what you're really even doing in the first place, right? But I'm still here, doing different things. It's sound one day, maybe it's video the other day, maybe it's photography. I'm enjoying this now, because there's not many days that are the same. They're very varied, I either might be sitting in my office or I'm out somewhere and I don't know where until like, the week before or whatever.
Yeah.
So you started a production company,
Yeah. Gone
and
Productions.
and then at what time? Because you guys reformed Glucifer, right? As well.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause we broke up in 2005, and around 2017, there had been so many, people from so many different angles, like, well, like kind of pressing, like you should, I mean serious now, you should really consider. I'd heard like many times over the years, like, well, people want to see you live, you should do this. And like, but I'd kind of understood that our singer was somewhere where he might want to do it. And I had already played in a band with one guitar player after Glucifer. So I asked him, so maybe we should just call in for a meeting, just meet, have dinner or whatever, look each other in the eyes, and then say, you know what, we're never going to do this, or we're not going to do this. This is okay, but this is another time to reevaluate that and see, should we actually do this or not? Should we give it a try or not? If it's no, that's okay, but then we know it for sure that everybody's on the same level. But it turned out that I knew the one guitar player really wanted this to happen, but it was a singer who I was uncertain of. But I had a feeling that he might be into this. So we met, and we all said, well, let's give it a try. It's got to be at least as good as we were or better. It has to be fun. And hopefully, and yeah, there should be some money in this as well. Because if there is money out there, we're not going to say no. So it was really cool. We had our first show after, was it 13 years break, I think, at a festival in Spain. And after that, we announced a show at one of the big venues in Oslo. And we ended up selling out 4 shows a year in advance for this large venue in Oslo. So that was like, okay, I think people actually want to come and see us now. So that was incredible. That was something that we weren't expecting that at all, but we really got a kick out of that one.
I've always wondered, I've always had in the back of my head, like, I wish I had musical talents, which I don't have any of. And just what's it like to get on stage? Because I've seen video of the stages that you guys have played on, and it's major festivals. We're not talking like hundreds of people. It's like thousands upon thousands of people, and you're not on some side stage. You're on the main stage in front of like stadiums of people, like thousands. What is that energy like to get up there and just what's that experience like, man?
It's playing at the festivals compared to playing at a club show are for us two entirely different worlds. And especially if you're used to just playing like the smaller clubs, and the clubs are getting bigger, from the clubs you have the audience pretty close up to you. You get energy from them. They're giving you energy, and they're giving you it's almost like the playing is kind of going by itself because they're feeding you like their energy. That's a fantastic experience, right? I remember the first time playing on a huge stage. There's a festival in Denmark called the Roskilde Festival, and it's huge. We were playing, it was us, a band called Monster Magnet, and then Metallica. So my elbow was literally hitting Lars Ulrich's bass drum. I was sitting in front of it. And we played that stage, and that was the first time I felt like, okay, this crowd of, I don't know, 25,000 people, they're because we were a fairly unknown band, but we were set to open the main stage and open the whole festival on the main stage. So that was the first time I could experience like, well, the audience is not really giving us energy. They're more kind of pulling our energy out of us because we're not used to communicating to the back row way back over there. We're just used to this, smaller area. So the first time it's crazy. You're full of energy, but you're also really drained, and you don't know really what's going on. After a while, you learn more and more to how to play these larger stages and just kind of be in the music and not really, because for me, sitting behind the drums in the back, the audience is so far away in the first place. So usually if it's a large audience like that, a large stage, big portion of the front of the stage is going to be security, and they're kind of far away. So I just have to like be focused on the music. But it's a lot of emotions and a lot of energy at the same time, and you're focusing on like, okay, are my cymbals falling down? Do I hear what's going on in my monitor? Am I playing the right tempo? Am I, you're really focused, but you're also really aware of like small minor details in your little universe of just, well, that's how it is for me anyways.
That makes sense.
But the best part is when, because I usually see the backs of the other guys, but they turn around and come to me and give me energy and then we're doing this together. That's a pretty cool feeling, because you're with your compadres and you're out in war, but it's a peaceful war. You're not fighting. You're just giving out, hopefully good energy. It's a very interesting thing, and I can understand, like, because I spoke, again, going back to Knut Vidar, when he did the deal with Dressman and Varner Group with Rolling Stones, and he said, this is a deal they're making a lot of money off of. But don't they have a lot of money? And he goes, yeah, well, Danny, everybody loves to make money. But not only that, the thing is, like with the Rolling Stones, who still are out playing live today, that's not for the money. That is because it's like a drug. It's like you can't get enough of it. You want to go out there. It's music, which is what you live for, and it's a sharing experience. So you're sharing that with the audience. Wouldn't be no fun if they weren't out there. Of course, it's good to do it by yourself as well, but it's much more fun.
I can absolutely relate to that, Danny. I don't know if Daniel told you, but I'm an actor. And
cool.
I've shot one film, but most of my career has been on the stage. And
oh yeah,
I see a play as being three things. You've got the script, you've got the actors bringing it to life, but the third component is the audience. And a play doesn't come alive until it's up on its feet in front of an audience, because of that energy transfer. People say, how can you just do the same play night after night? It's like, well, it's not the same fucking play, because it's a different audience. So it's different. So I absolutely get what you're saying.
And you're also many people on stage, not necessarily at the same time, but there's those energies, like the human, and you guys are playing on only feelings, right? It's only feelings, and that's a very sensitive thing if you're doing that against someone else or together with someone else on the stage, because that you could have a different energy from night to night, and as well as your other fellow actors.
Absolutely,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Just in bearing in mind that this podcast is called Built by Love, just in the stories you've told there about leaving Carlings and regrouping with Glucifer, to me really speaks about the power of love, because you were drawn into Carlings because of what I hear. Maybe not as the suits and bean counters might not have called it love, but it seems to me that Carlings had a love for their employees, and that was one of the things that drew you in. And when you started to sense that was going, it was becoming more corporate or whatever, you left, and you found yourself back somewhere where the love that was like the seeds of love sown like decades ago to develop this fan base, they were still in love with you in some sense, which is how you were able to go. So love has played a really, from my observation, played a really key part in your career. Where is that love for you now in Gong Productions?
This is about as working as freelance and having to, I'm all alone here, and having to go out and find the jobs and get the jobs. I'm really dependent on former relations. I'm always looking for new, of course, but I'm really relying on the former relations, and the love goes of doing something together, creating something together for somebody who needs something created for them. And I do that with passion, and maybe more passion than I'm never going to get an award for like, well, he was the best photographer we ever worked with, because that's I'm not there. But hopefully you can tell that there's passion in there, and I think a picture Well, my father was a photographer, which I mentioned, and he had a lot of like his art was all about his passion for human beings, other human beings, and nature, and just beautiful light settings, and just interesting situations. And that for me counts a lot more than like all this picture is just perfect. Just look at that sunset and look at the colors and how they did it after in the Photoshop, and how everything is like so crisp and so picture perfect. Well, picture perfect has never really been that interesting for me, but something that you can tell a story, you can see something in that picture that's, wow, that was different, or that was like, oh, that was really cool because it's kind of unique. Maybe it's absolutely not perfect. Maybe it's what the Japanese call wabi sabi. Are you familiar with this expression?
No.
And I think, well, it's going to be, it's like, it's imperfect, and by being imperfect, it kind of makes it perfect. If I'm going to give you a very corny and banal version of wabi sabi,
no,
but
I get it. Yeah.
but that for me is much more interesting. A story that's that speaks, other than something that's just picture perfect. So hopefully that shines through in what I do. It's if you can recognize something I do. I think the biggest compliment I ever heard was somebody who listened to me playing drums and listened to recording that I did, and they said, "Oh, I can hear that's you." So that's a signature. It could be I can hear it, and that's the thing that I don't like about what you play, but they recognize it, so it's a signature. So I think that if you can have a signature, I think that's the biggest compliment you can ever have. But that, I don't know, that's might just be me, but that's what
I heard you say just a minute ago. Excuse me. I heard you say just a minute ago. Hold on one second. I heard you say just a minute ago that, I'll never get an award. I'm kind of a spiritual person, so I would suggest, because I think all of our spoken words as well as our thoughts have powers, right? And so I would suggest this is that it's not that you will never get an award, because you will. I know your passion and your artistic nature. I have not yet gotten an award. Will you agree with me on that one? You have not yet gotten an award.
Okay, I can say that. But I mean, an award can be like I said, for me, an award was that one friend of mine who said, "Oh, I can hear that's you," right away. That's for me an award. That's going to mean a lot more, and I'm going to remember that much more than if I have something on the wall, if it has a gold record or whatever, People's Choice or whatever. That actually really means a lot more.
And I gave you an award tonight as well. I gave you the Cool Motherfucker Award.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
we should get them made up, Daniel, so we can
cool
send
motherfucker.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's in post-production, we'll just have something slide in, like it'll come in under the title, Danny Young, Cool Motherfucker Award.
And listen, we need to keep an eye on the time, Daniel. I could carry on this conversation forever, but
you guys just let me know.
Yeah. Well, Danny, you've got a lot of different things that people can discover you, right? So let's start with your band. Where can people find out about your band, Glucifer? Where can they listen to music? Where do they find that online?
I guess most people would go to like Spotify if they have Spotify. There's probably a lot on YouTube as well. There's I don't think we really even have a regular website that we do our own thing. We're
Can you spell the band name just for people who might be driving or listening and they're like, and they're trying to figure out how to spell it?
Of course. So it's Gluecifer. So it's like Lucifer, but with glue and the Lucifer. So it's our unspoken slogan could be, sniff glue and follow Satan. That's going to take you far in life, baby.
That's screaming like late 80s, early 90s rock, right?
Yeah, but it's a good name because people remember it. But most people, and some people say, "Oh yeah, Lucifer." Yeah, well, actually, no. Lucifer is another band. It has a meaning, I guess, for some. But yeah, it's Glucifer. So glue and then see.
And are you touring anytime soon?
We haven't made much plans for next year yet because we're just kind of taking it a little bit easy right now, which is good also because it's one of those. It's like a passion project where like we only want to do things that we want to do. We're blessed and lucky in that sense because we're all, we've done this already. We've toured like crazy before. And now it's like, well, we don't want to tour like crazy, but we want to go places that want to have us. Maybe we can go to some new places, but now we go to cities and or festivals, but mostly venues that we know this is going to be good. Yeah. This is our people. This is our crowd. Yeah. So, yeah, we've toured. I mean, we played a lot since we came back in 2018, but a lot. Some people think it's nothing. Other people think, oh, that's a whole lot. But maybe 20 shows a year, which is for an active band, not much. But we all have different
other
things
stuff.
We're doing. I'm my company, family. Our lead singer is one of the biggest names in journalism in Norway. So and he works for one of the big newspapers, a political editor.
Wow.
Our other guitar player, he runs like the whole the biggest art museum and all the art that they own, like the warehouse of all the art. He runs that. He has like 80 people working for him.
That is so cool.
He's a director, and then the other guitar player, he runs a pizza place.
That is so cool.
So it's like, again, bringing us back to Daly Roth when he teamed up with his manager, and they call themselves the Picasso Brothers because it's right in the middle between fine art and pizza delivery.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I was going to say, one of the reasons I asked about you touring is my 17-year-old son is a musician. He's a keyboard player.
Cool.
And I know that if you were ever touring anywhere in the vicinity of where we live, it would be fabulous to come and see you.
We'll have to team up for sure. Yeah. And you must bring your son. What's his name?
Isaac.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And what kind of music is he into?
All sorts, rock, indie, jazz. He's kind of just fusing it all together into his own style. Punk, he just
great, man.
Just loves it all. Yeah.
Well, the best of luck to him with everything. I mean, he's going to find his way. He's going to make his path, and he's going to get there.
Yeah.
And hopefully he's going to be having a lot of fun on the way doing that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's a ride.
Amazing. Where can people learn about your production company, and say the name, and then if people want to get a hold of you to learn how they could potentially work with you, how would they do that?
And
Productions,
why?
Yeah. Gongproductions.com or on Facebook, just call Gong Productions, Facebook, Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn, but I don't use that very much. I don't know. It's somehow I haven't really. Yeah, I try not to spend too much time on social media because I want to do other things as well. But
it's good for your brain to stay off of it.
Well, unfortunately, I scroll on my phone like crazy. With all these short videos that make me laugh. But it's like a digital cocaine. I don't think it's good for you at all. But anyways, we have to be there, I guess. And what I do is I do podcasts. I used to have my own podcast as well, but it was so much work with it. Now if people hire me in to do record them and edit it and, you do all that stuff. I also do video production. I can either gather up a whole big team or just do a small version of it for social media content or whatever they need documented. Photography. I do live streaming. Broadcast, I'm
so you're like a
strange
full
potato.
Service.
Well, a full what?
You're like a full service production company.
I guess you can say that because if there's something I can't do, I'll hire somebody in to do it.
Yeah.
And if the budget is really, really small, well, then I'll do it.
It's amazing, man.
It's fun.
Danny,
it's fun. I learn a lot.
I can speak personally from knowing you and having the opportunity to work with you, which was a blessing. And you're an amazing artist, obviously speaks volumes on your journey. And so I can only imagine for you to instill that creativity and art into your production company means you're world class. So thank you, sir, for being on this podcast.
Yeah.
That's very kind words. And Daniel, likewise to you. We've worked together. You've taken me places I never thought I'd ever go. And seen things and experienced things that were fantastic and memories for life. And that comes from you. and your
Thank you,
ideas
sir.
and your passion and your creativity. So we should not forget that either, because I've witnessed it, and I witnessed you work 20-hour days with
Yeah.
not even 4 hours sleep, and the pressure and the budgets and the crazy Norwegians yelling at you, and that's pressure, and that's the stamina and like the work ethics. So yeah, kudos to you, man.
I'm feeling left out here, guys. I mean, you've been slapping each other's backs. What about me? No, it's fine.
Well, we have to come and see you on stage.
Yeah.
Is it in London?
My next production, I start rehearsals end of November. It's a little town called Leamington in just south of Coventry.
What's the production?
It's a production of Medea, the Greek tragedy. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Playing Jason of the Argonauts. Yeah.
Wow.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to come and see you on stage.
Gentlemen, I think what we've just done here is if we've set in stone the motion that we need to get, pun intended, the band back together.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Peter, Danny, and Daniel need to round up and figure out a way to do something.
There's two of us over this side of the pond, so it makes more sense for you to come over.
Gentlemen, you have no idea. I have been itching for the last 3 years to have a business reason to be over there. So all I need is like the smallest ounce, and I'm on a plane. So
well, they have their local akkevitt in England. It's called Scotch. We could try that.
Yeah, I will just make sure I clear the next day. So
yeah. Well, yeah,
Let's
we should definitely meet in somewhere in the UK.
Let's do it.
Sounds
secret
amazing.
Location.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you,
Danny. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Built by Love podcast. If you found the conversation inspiring or helpful in any way, then head to builtbylove.com/podcast and make sure you're subscribed to our email list. Please also take a few minutes to leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, and share this episode with a friend that you think it might help. Each review helps us to spread the message of love to more people. See you next time on the Built by Love podcast.